Good morning, everybody. Welcome in on this lovely rainy day. If you've not gotten to hang out at Garden 17 in the rain, it's kind of nice, honestly. The metal roof gives us a cool little sound effect. But it is a lot cooler, at least, which is a plus. If anyone was at last week's class, it got a little warm. So we are going to do our Mother's Day pottings today. I've chatted with a couple of you guys, but if you've got more than one ticket, feel free to do more than one arrangement kind of concept, right? If not, you're always welcome to come and see me afterwards, and we'll get tickets all straightened around at the end, okay? But for today, we'll talk a little bit about how to create the perfect potted arrangement. As the rain gets louder, I will do my best to talk louder, so if you can't hear me, let me know. But we will talk about how to make the perfect potted arrangement, how to look for pairings of different plants, textures, styles, things of that nature. We will go through the general rule or general principle of the thriller, filler, and spiller effect. We'll talk about some fertilizers, how to water and feed them afterwards, and then we'll jump right into the fun part, which is going to be making a mess today, right? So we'll jump right in, basically. Anybody have any big questions before we get started? All feeling good? Cool. Couple of quick random announcements I've got. We are doing a little special promo with Mevo. Mevo is the company we use for our live streaming of our classes and such. They are offering a $20 gift card if anybody wants to hang out with us for a mock class from 1:15 to 2:30. So get a gift card if you want to come back and hang out. All you got to do is sit in the audience and be a body, basically. So pretty easy if you're already here anyways. And then the other thing I want to remind everybody of is we do have our Mother's Day weekend sale going on. That's going to be 15% off all of our gifts and all of our pre-made potted arrangements. The displays are all out on the floor. There's some in tropicals, and then our full gift shop is all going to be on sale this weekend. So do a little bit of shopping while you're here too, kind of thing. Cool. Awesome, guys. Let's get started. You want to hit the first one? You're probably going to have to hit 2 or 3 times sometime. Oh, there you go. You're good. We just hit on all of this. Basically, don't hesitate to ask questions. Throw up your hand. Holler if you need anything. If you have to run to the restroom, by all means, please do so. As you go out the door, hang a right, and you will run straight into the restrooms out there, okay? Then feel free to refill your coffee and tea as we go today, too. You're doing great.
Thanks.
Cool. This is, I didn't even introduce ourselves. I'm so sorry. My name is Rodney. I am the owner of Garden 17, and this is my wonderful mother, Mindy. I am so sorry I did not introduce that. Sorry. Welcome, everybody.
Clapping for me, actually.
Yeah. Today we're going to, like I said, jump through all the goodies. So let's keep rolling. So hit on the next one. All right. So first general rule of thumb is understanding the principle of thriller, filler, and spiller. Whenever we see a potted arrangement, we don't always think about the principles of designing the potted arrangement, right? So the big trigger there is going to be understanding thriller, filler, and spiller. And the idea here is that the thriller is often your excitement piece, right? That's going to give us our height and often used for texture. Filler is kind of our mid-range. That's usually where we're going to see our color, our flowers, that's our fullness or our lushness from the potted arrangement, right? And then our spiller is what's given us dimension. That's going to offer that kind of spilling effect. It's going to give us that three-dimensional effect to the planter, right? So today what we're going to use is we've got our grasses. We've got the Ruby Sahara and I think the Red Rooster Carex. Yes, Red Rooster Carex as our thriller for today. We are going to start small so that we've got room to grow into our 10-inch planters, and we'll talk about size in just a minute too. But that's going to be used for our thriller today. So that's going to give us our height and our texture. Our filler layer is, of course, the beautiful geraniums, big, bold flowers, nice, lush, full foliage, right? And giving us some good texture there as well. And then we've got our purslane. That one's not stickered. I don't remember the name of the color, but it's a beautiful yellow. There are pinks and reds as well. But we are going to use that as our spiller, and that's what's going to give us our cascade effect to give us that dimension, okay? Now on to the next one. You might have to hit it 2 or 3 times. Keep going. One more. There we go.
Perfect.
And of course, now that we've picked our plants, we need to talk soil, right? Our next most important thing. Soil is, think of it as the foundation of your home. If you've got good soil, your walls aren't going to crack kind of concept, right? So we want to keep a really good soil mix. So understanding what goes into our soils, I liked this little image here, but it basically talks about all of those important ingredients, right? So perlites, barks, things of that nature are what's going to give us our texture, right? That's going to help us with drainage. That gives our roots something to really attach to. Excuse me. And compost is always great to have in your soil mix. We did just start carrying the ground up. They have a potting mix, I believe it's called My Bohemia. Is that sound right? I think so. Does that sound right, Abby? Yeah, cool. Awesome. Love it. Thanks. So My Bohemia is the name of their potting mix. They actually have a bit of compost in that mix. The nice thing about that for your outdoor potted arrangements is it's going to give a little bit more nutrients as your base to start. But typically your potted arrangements are usually what I say are neutral, right? They're going to have a little bit more filler of soil content, but not necessarily a compost, okay? Soil should have texture, right? We'll notice the bins that we have in front of us. What we're using today is going to be that Fox Farm Ocean Forest. Really good for, again, color arrangements, interior plants as well. But you'll notice it's got a lot of really good texture to it. The more texture for your soil, the better, right? It's going to help with drainage. It's going to help the plant create stability with its root systems. And most important, it is going to allow oxygen into the soil. We often forget how important oxygen is in our soil. A perfect soil has about 20 to 25% oxygen, actually. So if you think about the fluffier, more textured soil, the better you're going to be in the start, okay? When we talk about fertilizers, whoops, this side. When we talk about fertilizers, there's a whole line of products. If anybody has never used Microlife before, it is a super great product. Today we're using our annual colors, so we're going to talk a lot about feeding our blooms on our plants. And then Fox Farm also makes a tiger bloom, which is another really great one. And per every class, I always like to ask this, does everybody know what the 3-number ratio means? No? Cool, we love it. We're going to be so educated and dirty today, we love it. All right, so the numbers on the front of your fertilizer are a way to know what the fertilizer is feeding. I always tell everybody, don't go back to high school and relearn all your chemistry. Keep it simple. Leaves, blooms, roots. Leaves, blooms, roots. Easiest way to remember it, okay? The first number is what's going to feed your foliage or your leaves of the plant. Middle number is going to be for your bloom. And the last number is what's feeding the soil or your roots, depending on the type of fertilizer it is, okay? So we're getting a really good ratio. When we look at these that we've brought in today, Tiger Bloom is called Buds and Bloom fertilizer. It is a 284. So we've got a higher middle number, which is helping with the blooming effect. And Microlife creates what they call their maximum blooms, which is a 383. So very similar ratios, you'll notice the 284, 383, right? Pretty well balanced. We like a good well-balanced fertilizer because we know it is organic or leaning organic in that case. When we get above numbers that are in the 10 and 12 range, that's when we're stepping out of an organic and typically into a synthetic. That is not a perfect rule of thumb, but it is a good general rule of thumb to follow, okay? Other things that we'll talk about too, especially when you're out on the floor and you're having plant troubles, is amendments that we use in the soil, right? So this is something that is a little bit different than a fertilizer. We're going to think about a fertilizer as like a breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? Whereas nutrients and supplements and things of that nature are more like vitamins. So it's more like taking a daily multivitamin or that vitamin C when you start not feeling well, right? So supplement that we're talking about today is the bone meal. We'll notice it's a 0-10-0. Great for blooms, right? This is something that we mix right into our soil at the time of planting typically, okay? Because we're using our Fox Farm Ocean Forest, we're already starting with a pretty well balanced mix. The Ocean Forest has a little bit more of the bat guano in the earthworm castings, which is going to be similar to a bone meal in that way, giving us a little bit extra nutrient or supplement for our plant to start our pottings, okay? Another method of fertilizing is with a granular versus a liquid. Really, the big difference to understand here is this one is going to be fast, this one's going to be slow, right? There are benefits to both. Fast, potted arrangements. As we water, think about all that water going through our pot and washing out the bottom. We are losing all of that nutrients over time, right? We want the water to drain. We just talked about good drainage, right? So as we water, all of that nutrients is going out with the water. So that's when a liquid is really nice. Anything potted, liquids are great. They're faster acting, and they're a little bit more immediate for the plant to be able to digest. Whereas a granular, it's got to break down first, right? It's got to break down into the soil before the plant can really eat it, okay? But a granulars are really great to mix into your soil upon planting itself. So then you're not worried about top dressing later kind of concept. So in a lot of my potted arrangements, what I'll often do is I've got a bus tub like this, similar at home. Mine's not quite as pretty as these are. But what I'll do is I'll put in my soil, I'll put in all of my nutrients right into the soil. I'll mix it all up like a big old soup and then do my potting, okay? That's where granulars come in handy, as well as your supplements. So I would do something like a high bloom for my, what do they call this? Cavern culture. And we'll notice 112-0 is this ratio. Pretty much only feeding the bloom, right? Not really getting much else out of that. I do like something that's a little bit more well-balanced, and when I reference well-balanced, that we're also going to feed our leaves and roots at the same time, right? Because I'm also what I call a lazy gardener. I want to do as much as I can in one single step. I'm a busy person, right? So I can't be out there all the time. So something that's a little bit more well-balanced offers our plants a little bit more in that one single step action, okay? Keep one more. You got this. You're doing great.
Thanks. It's hard work.
Care and love. So we want to love our plants just as much as we love our mother, right? Yes. When we think about capturing all of the soil into a pot like this, we start to lose the value of the nutrients over time. Again, like I was mentioning, as we water, we're losing all that nutrients, right? So we want to make sure that we've got something in routine. Again, a liquid is great for that because it's going to be faster acting. But we also want to make sure that we are taking care of any spent blooms and loving on our plants as well. I'm just realizing I pulled this off before class and I totally shouldn't have. This plant had a spent bloom on it, so this guy was attached in here. And that spent bloom just means that the bloom has done what it's going to do. It's opened up and it's lost all of its petals, right? So it's not very pretty for the plant anymore. The plant, though, does not know the difference. So the plant wants to do its best to survive. That's what it does in nature, right? So what the plant wants to do is continue producing energy to this bloom stalk to keep it alive as long as it can. And so what we can do to help our plants is remove those spent blooms, because it's also going to reduce the energy that the plant is using, right? So if we help our plants put the energy in the right place, we're helping the plant produce more blooms. So the more we take off the spent blooms, the more blooming opportunity for the plant itself, okay? The other thing that comes up often with our potted arrangements is pruning. We always want to prune to shape. If you've got some lower leaves that aren't looking super great, pull those guys off, because same concept is going to apply. The plant is trying to fix that leaf, but it doesn't know the difference on how to or how not to, basically, okay? So we want to basically take as much of that pain away from the plant as we can and ease its transition into its new home.
I have a question about pruning.
Yeah.
So is it better to pick it off or to cut it off?
That's a great question. So what Mom was asking, is it better to pick off or cut it off? And honestly, it's going to depend a little bit on the plant. So in this particular case with the geranium, it is a more herbaceous plant, meaning it's just a softer stem. It's not very woody. So I could pinch this very cleanly and remove it from the plant without a problem. If the bloom is a little bit more woody, so let's think about something like a salvia that's got a little bit more of a woody stem, a pruner is best, because you want as clean of a cut as you can on the plant. We want to prevent things like disease, fungal issues, and stuff like that. So any tearing on the plant can cause, obviously, all those problems, right? So a prune is better with something woodier. If you can pinch and it breaks the stem off, just pulling is fine. Good question.
Thanks.
You're welcome. All right, cool.
Oh.
All right, so that's all the super formal stuff. And we will continue to talk about it as we're doing our potting and stuff today. But if anybody has any questions, again, please do not hesitate to just shout them out. We're here to have a little bit of fun. Yes, ma'am? As far as deadheading goes? Yeah. Not really. Every plant is going to benefit from that. However, it's more about timing that's going to be different. So on something like the plants we're using today for the annual color, all that's referring to is that we're only going to get really one season out of this plant. So the more aggressive I am with the deadheading, the more blooms I'm going to get, so the more bang for the buck, right? Now on my perennials, my plants that are in my landscaped beds, or the plants that are designed to live year after year, most of our natives are either going to spread by seed or by root. So it's best to let those spent blooms hang out until they set their seeds, and then do your pruning, right? And in some cases, most of our natives we're going to do early in the season, right? So we might leave them from basically October through February before we do our deadheading, right? So it's more about timing, not necessarily plant variety. Yeah, good question. Any other big questions? We'll start having some fun. Cool. All right, guys, so what we're going to do is we're all going to go ahead and grab one pot. And some of you guys, we already chatted, but if you have more than one ticket, of course, you're doing more than one potted arrangement kind of thing, you'll grab two pots. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and grab one of each plant. So you're going to want one thriller, one filler, and one spiller. And as we're making those selections, we want to think about how we're pairing those colors together. So think about the vibe that you guys want and the aesthetic you guys want out of it. But of the spillers, like I said, there's reds, yellows, and pinks. Of the fillers, our geraniums, we've got red, multicolor, the variegated with the pink, the light pink, and same colors on this side. And then the grasses, again, we've got the red rooster or the green. Both of them are great aesthetics. Oh, sorry, I forgot one spiller. We do have a spiller of the sweet potato vine. So that's a really pretty one, pairs really well with the green grass. So if everybody wants to go ahead and grab one, please don't trample anybody. What's up?
Red rooster, red rum. There's like a really big one down there. What's that?
There's the same one. They're just, it's more like this variety right here. So some of them are going to be more of a matte carpet when they grow. The or the Portulacas and purslines, they're going to be a little bit more like carpeted, and then others are a little bit taller when they grow. One, and one. There's this. Oh yeah, that could be one too. This one. Yep. Yeah. These have much bigger flowers too. They're like a big rose-like flower almost.
I think the ones on the bottom might be white.
That's going to be the pink lady, so it's a super soft pink
those are
color.
like the spiller.
Super soft pink on that one. Almost white though, honestly, hon. And then the yellow, and then there are some reds there.
But yeah, I did notice that some white blooms on some too.
Yeah,
about that.
they're so light in their color. Yeah.
Just like how Rebecca picks one.
Need any help picking?
No.
Doing good. Okay. No, what you already made your selection. Love
I
it.
also know you.
Oh yeah.
I work at Square, and you did that
Oh
video.
my God,
last
yes.
year.
Okay. When you walked up with the coffees, I was like, I feel like she looks super familiar, and you were like on a beeline. I was like, no, she's just here for the class.
Yeah, no.
Wild.
I wasn't
Okay.
on that team, but I told them I was like, I know a great business. Anyways, that's
Okay. Well, that's cute. Yeah. No, it turned out great. I love it.
Yeah.
You got it. Yep. And an alternative to the spiller would be the sweet potato vine if you wanted to go that route instead. Yep.
Oh, there you got the other one.
Yeah, they're already.
Yeah.
We'll just let everybody do their thing. All right, so when I get started on this, I'll talk about putting the soil in the base here, because what I'm thinking is I'm going to need this often too.
Okay.
But if there's enough pottery left, I'll go ahead and just grab a secondary pot so you can do your thing. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Which there should be, because
Right,
yeah. So I'll use one of those as an example. That way you can kind of pot as you go. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And like I said, worst case, err on
So
the
you don't
back
need
side
me
one.
to stop?
No. You should be fine. I'm thinking we're going to have enough so. Oh, yeah. No, you're good. I'm just sitting. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Doing good? Love it. That's cute. Need any hand making any selections? Are you doing okay?
No, I'm just trying to figure out what she wants.
Fair enough.
It's one product arrangement per ticket, right?
Yeah, that's the idea. Yep, you got it. Yeah.
Do you want that?
You forgot to go into this wheel of who you refer to as mom.
I literally just got some
I knew I was going to.
some of these yesterday, so I'm gonna do it different.
There's enough if you want to do one. We've got
The
enough.
sweet potato
If you want
vines.
to.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I think that's really pretty, and I love the
And I was saying,
contrast.
yeah. And it just flows over so pretty.
And I love the shape and.
I know. Well, the dark color I really like too. So I know it comes in green too, but I always get the purple.
Sorry, I let you just fuss
Oh
and
no, you can fuss all you want. That's what it's here for.
think about it.
I am horrible, so I fuss all the time over the
You're what?
plants.
I'm sorry?
I'm horrible with the plants. Takes me forever to pick one out.
Oh my God. You have them all arranged, out on the floor, and I'll pull all 10 out and just stand. I don't care if I'm blocking the way. I need to look at everything.
Exactly. sweet potato vine would be pretty.
Well, the contrast with the purple in there, and then if you used a red as like a bright pop with that
Yeah.
would be cute.
Does this guy spread it all like within your pot? Like, will it?
It totally will. Yep. So just like most of your ornamental grasses, it's going to grow a small cluster. Honestly, what I would probably do come winter is just put it right in the ground.
Put it right in what?
Right in the ground. Like you could totally use it in a landscape or pot it into, you know what I mean, a larger pot, of course,
Yeah, I was
right?
going to ask what at the end of the season, or the blooming season, what we're going to do with all
Yep.
of them.
I'm going to cover all that. That's a good question.
Usually it's just, well, I'm putting it out in the yard.
Yeah,
and see what happens.
Yep,
Yeah,
totally.
exactly.
Literally, I have like 47 amaryllis now.
Yeah, exactly.
Top of this greener than the other. Is that good or bad?
That doesn't really matter. It's what happens is when they're on the flats in the greenhouses, it's all the like molds and stuff that grow. Yeah, the mold is technically good for the soil because it means the soil's active, right? Yep. I love her hair. Her hair.
Her hair, I know. When she walked in, I was like, oh, I was like, her hair's so pretty. It's like all the little clips in it and stuff.
Oh, this can be yours.
Don't touch. No. So that's why, like, my geraniums look so ugly. I threw them all in one pot.
Well, they might be too dense.
Well, there's nothing to give them.
But they needed friends. Come
Right? Exactly.
But there's no, like, nothing with it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh. Yes. Pairing is important.
So yeah, so it just doesn't look good with just them shoved in a pot. But, you know, I needed to put them somewhere so they didn't die. So I threw them all in one pot. That's what I had originally. Funny, I thought all the red would go.
I think geraniums, though, or any color of geranium is always so, like, saturated of color. Like, even the whites are really, really white. You know what I mean?
Well, I have all the white geraniums in a pot and all like the white pansies. Is that what they are? White something. Pansies, I think.
Pansies, yeah.
And they're in two pots next to each other. That's why I
You
asked
can
you.
separate them and get them some
I told you
some
Kyle came
interest.
over and started.
Yeah.
You know,
Sorry.
so
Hey, that's fair.
yeah.
You've got the right to.
He had plants picked out. I changed my mind 10 times. So.
Oh, okay.
This was my
That one's a
filler,
spiller.
my filler.
Yes.
This, all
welcome.
right, so this is going to be
Yeah, and
your
the
spiller
tall
and
grass
spiller
is a
option.
filler.
So you're going to want a geranium as your filler. So if you like the, if you like the purple, I would say drop that guy and then pick a color that you think is going to go best. Honestly, the pink and the red always look really sharp because the intensity of this color. But the variegated is also
And I was
so
actually
fun.
talking with
You
another
can't
guy
miss
because
it
I
out.
have some sweet potato vine like
Yeah.
next to my pond. And it keeps coming back year after year. So you could put it in the ground like in the fall and it'll probably come back if you wanted
So
to.
some people say bad,
Yeah.
some people say great.
Or keep it in the pot, you know, too, whatever you wanted to do. But
Oh,
yeah.
it's intense. Yep, it's intense. You know, they're in the same family as citronella. So a citronella plant is technically a geranium plant. So most of the plants in that have a lot of concentrated oils in their foliage, and that's what causes a lot of that scent. Yep. Yeah, I think there might be some more pinks over here too.
There's a good one in the back.
This one in the back might
Yeah, I was
be.
going to say. That one in the back is good.
Oh, she's a little thinner. But a little more balanced though. Yeah.
So they've got two.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like
That one, that's the winner. So that would be your three right there that you'd want. That'll give you your thriller, your filler, and your spiller.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I guess I was thinking because of the height that this was a
Yeah.
I know, exactly. That's what I
Yep.
think of too. But yeah, wrong.
plan too much. And I put, in one pot I put wave petunias, which she always laughs at me. She says, that's cute, Mom. You know they're going to die.
Yep.
I feel like petunias.
Exactly.
The papayas,
The pampas grass, yeah. Uh-huh.
but it's the one, the king tut grass.
Yep.
I'm crazy with that.
Oh, great.
I don't know if it's going, but it's so pretty.
It is gorgeous.
And
Yeah.
I put some blue haze in there
Okay.
petunias.
Yeah, that's great. So that's giving you your spiller there. Yeah, absolutely. No, that sounds great.
Yeah, my yard is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I need an intervention.
Yeah. You know what? You're gonna find support here in all the wrong ways, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem.
Exactly.
Is once you start, it is very hard to stop. It is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is.
Yep. Oh my God, that's great. That's gorgeous. Yeah, that's awesome. Are you inside Austin or were you?
Barely.
Okay.
Down the end of my street is Austin. I live in Camp Hollow, which is off 620 and a
Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
okay,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so you have good
Yeah.
space out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, that's nice.
always made them plant seeds when they were
Yep.
little, and
Yep.
she has twins. And
Oh, that's sweet.
our seeds, I put them in raised beds.
Oh, they're thriving. I'm sure. Yeah. It's been a great year for it, though. We didn't warm up too quick. We had a nice progressive warm up, so a lot of the seeds did really well this year.
And there could be worse hobbies to have.
This is true.
Yeah, I said there could be worse hobbies to have.
Well, I just got every morning, and I dug up my mother's morning. I dug up things from their house when my parents passed away.
Yeah.
She started like 80 years ago.
Oh, wow.
That is so cool.
Daylilies,
Oh my God, gorgeous.
I will never.
Daylilies are my favorite.
Mine, I start the next.
Oh yeah, that can be a little aggressive. Yeah.
And then she gave me primrose.
Oh.
Just a few.
They can go wild, but at least they're really pretty. They're a little more manageable. Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, like I said, I need an intervention. Come up, please.
All right. So has everybody got all their goodies? So let's talk a little bit about how to get everything placed. So since we are using 3 different plants to give us our thriller, filler, and spiller effect, right? We're going to kind of imagine using a triangle inside the pot today, okay? So we're going to kind of use a triangular pattern. And the best practice to get started is to start with your largest plant that you're putting in. And when we think of largest plant, we're talking about its container or root size, okay? So though this is our mid-tier or our filler level, we're going to look at the soil size. So our other 2 guys are in a 4-inch container, so they're a little more shallow than our big 6-inch guys here, right? So what we're going to do is use our 6-inch to help us start setting the level of soil to get started. So our goal is going to be that our finished soil level is the same height as our soil level in our container. So that's going to vary a little bit by each plant, right? But that's going to be kind of our aim. So when we set our 6-inch in here, our geranium for our filler, we're going to kind of aim for the soil level of the plant itself to be about 1/4 to 1/2 inch at very most from the top of the pot. And that void that we see down at the bottom of the pot, that's how much soil we want to go ahead and scoop in to get us started, okay? So we're going to use that as just a general idea of depth. But so we're going to aim for that, kind of like I said, about 1/4 to 1/2 inch from the top. And that space that's left underneath that plant is what we want to go ahead and fill our pot to get started with, okay? Yep. Just like that. And then you'll scoop. And I didn't leave us a scoop, so
That's fine.
I didn't figure you cared.
No. Don't. Is that right?
All right. And as we're filling our containers, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to safely get our plants out of their grow pots to get them into our new containers. So basically, easiest way is to squeeze around all of the edges around our planter. We don't want to squeeze so hard that we hear too much crinkling and crackling, right? But we want to squeeze enough to kind of soften up those roots. And so as we're squeezing our plant, it's going to help soften up and basically give separation between the grow pot and the soil itself. If you can kind of imagine, most of these plants have been inside of these grow pots for most growers will say anywhere from 4 months to about 14 to 16 months is how long they spend inside these containers, which is why fertilizing your new plant babies is very important because the soil is pretty well depleted, right? So as we squeeze that, that's going to help soften it up. And then I like to take one hand and basically cover as much of the soil area as I can, giving some good grip on that main stem. We don't want to have too much motion on that main stem. And then I should be able to pretty easily flip it over and slide my container right off, right? And now I've got full stability of my plant, and now we can plop her right on in our containers.
You don't break up the roots?
Not yet.
Oh.
And then this gives us an opportunity to double check our soil height, just to make sure that we're starting at a good height. And I'll walk around kind of helping everybody. These are great, you guys. These are great heights, loving it. You're going to be pretty close. You may want just a little bit more soil in the base on, so when you set them in there, you've got them up a little bit higher, okay? Yeah. Looking good there, Mom. We're loving it. You guys are good back there. You guys are great. Old pros over here. Loving it. You guys doing good over here? Yes, love it. Cute. That's perfect. That's great height. Great height. Love it. Right on. No, we'll talk about that in just a second. So now that we're in there, let's think about our triangle shape, right? So when we think about our triangle, we want to pick a side that our filler is going to go on now. That side does not really matter because we are working with a round container, right? So we just want to shift it off to one side, and what we'll notice is the round up against the round shape of the pot is going to leave a little bit of a void, or what I always call the triangles. So it's going to be these little triangular spaces right in this area, if you imagine, okay? We're getting into some real geometry today. I think that's a triangle, right? But that little triangle space, that's the space where we want to now scoop in some soil to fill in that void. We don't want to fill in the base of the plant or this void where the rest of our plants are going to go, but we want to slowly start scooping into there. And before you get it completely filled, this is an opportunity to soften up your roots. So what we want to try to do is get our root system kind of softened into our new soil. We're trying to create a mesh between the existing soil coming out of the pot and the new soil. So it's kind of an area to massage those roots a little bit, right? Soften it up. We don't want to squish so hard where we're breaking the roots, but just gently kind of scratch at that surface, right? And then as you're doing that, you're able to fill in those little triangular shapes on each side of the pot, and that's what's going to hold our first plant steady for us. Yeah, you got it. Just like that, yep. What we're trying to do is get that root ball to mesh in with that new soil. So when you think about kind of softening up that root ball, when we water in our new soil, allows the two to kind of interact. Roots have muscle memory. So when they're in the pot, they tend to start growing in circles. Even in new soil, if we don't soften that up, they're going to continue to grow in circles. And so you don't get the most growth out of your plant unless you help soften them up, basically. Yeah. Doing good. Yep. There you go. Looking good.
Your mother should be the perfect one. Said your mother should be perfect.
It looks great. You're doing great.
Just because you're a gardener doesn't make me one.
Right. All right, so now we're going to take our grass. All right, everybody doing pretty good with that step? We all good to keep moving on? Yep, so what I would suggest is that we take our thriller as our next one. The reason I'm suggesting the thriller is this is going to be a lot easier to control than our spiller, right? So I like to start with this guy so I can hold it up, and I've got it basically like a ponytail, and we're going to just do that same process. So we're going to soften the pot, we're going to slide him out of there. We're going to soften up the roots so that we can easily slide it right out of the pot, okay? And then we're going to use that, and we're going to again think about our little triangle. So we're going to pick another side that this plant will go on. So once we've got that kind of softened up, right, we'll be able to slowly slide it out of that pot. And on these grasses, we're going to really notice all of the roots. Yep, just like that. All of those cool roots, right? This is where it's going to be really important that we go a little bit more aggressive on this root ball, right? Plants have muscle memory, so these roots are going to continue to be trapped in that kind of shape in circular motion if we don't open them up a little bit more. So we want to scratch not so much where we're breaking the roots, but we do want to loosen them up so that they're not kind of going in this circular or root girdling motion, okay? And that's what's going to help this plant thrive as it continues to mesh into the new soil. And if anybody needs any help, do not hesitate to holler. Super root bound. They're super root bound. With the grasses, you can be pretty aggressive, so you can really, you can really get into them.
She doesn't want me to destroy it.
You got this. You got this. You got. You got this. It might be a little bit too high, yeah. So what I would do, because you've got such a tight space, is you might actually borrow some of that. Yep, exactly. So kind of just finesse that side of it. Yeah. And then that way you can tuck that guy right in there. Yeah. And then that way when they settle in. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Doing good, doing good. You guys all good here? Everybody good on this side? Doing all right? Awesome. Doing good up here, Mom?
I'm making a really big move.
That's right. It's a garden center.
Yeah.
It's a garden center. And this is a messy part, guys, so please do not hesitate to be messy with it, right? Don't worry about the mess. This is the fun part. You guys doing good over here? Yeah, that looks great. Yeah, absolutely. Looks really good. And that'll leave you our third little pocket right here for our spillers. That's great. We love it. Yep. All right. Beautiful. I'm gonna borrow yours.
Perfect. That means I'm doing good.
When the like teacher uses it as an example,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It means that, I get brownie points.
All right, so once we've got that thriller in, we're gonna have a little bit of that same triangle void between our two plants, right? Now is a good, easy time to go ahead and fill that space in between with our extra potting soil. Looking good, we love it, we love it. Looking cute, you guys good? Looks good. Looking good. Did you do all that work, bud? Yes, it looks so good. Keep filling it up, good, good. Perfect. You ready for the third one? All right. All right, guys, so if we are all ready, I need a third one too. We're gonna jump to our spillers now, and the reason that I like to, in practice, leave these guys for last is the spillers are always the messy ones to get in, right? They're always they're viney ones, those are our soft ones, which is exactly why we're using them for our potted arrangement, but they are a little bit more difficult to handle sometimes. So easy way is kind of the same concept. I kind of just take it like a ponytail, if you will, squish around those bottom edges just to soften it up and let it slowly slide out into my hand, right? And that'll get it nice and loose for you. And we should have one pocket left to fill up our third spot on our triangle, right? So we're going to take the opportunity, if the soil is too low, go ahead and add a little bit in to bring it up, of course. If it's too high, here's an easy opportunity to kind of scoop out to give some room. Some of these vines in our ground covers and such often have a lot of excess soil right around the top. When you first take them out of that grow pot, don't hesitate to squeeze some of that soil off of the top layer there, because we are going to do one final top dress of our container. Love it. Doing good over here, guys. You guys got this. You know what you're doing. Beautiful. Look at you. You know what you're doing.
I pretend.
You're
to.
hired.
Yes, as long as I have the right material to work with when I pick it out myself. It looks
Totally, totally, absolutely. Figuring out a way to make it work, right? Yeah, you got that. That's great. That's great. There you go. Yep. That's perfect. so once we get that spiller in there, we're going to have a couple of little pockets. And right now, the best way, can I borrow yours?
Yeah.
The best way to make sure that we've got the right amount of soil, if anybody's ever done a potted arrangement, the first time you water, that soil always settles in real quick, right? Air is important, but too much air is problematic, right? Because we also need the soil content to hold enough water and moisture. So what I usually do is use a couple of fingers, and I usually just kind of squish into the soil in those triangle spaces that we were talking about earlier in between each plant. We don't need to push super, super hard. If there's a little bit of resistance, that's all you need. But that's a good way to check to make sure that you've filled in the voids in between each of the plants with enough soil to have the proper ratio. This is actually really good.
It's almost
job.
like I knew what I was doing.
Yeah. I'm going to keep this one on the front now so that I can use it as an example. You guys doing good here? Go. Yep. Yep. Yeah, the purslines are usually grown out very, very densely in those little containers. Looking good. Looking cute. Looking cute. Yeah, it was one branch.
Oh. Did you just pick that off mine?
No, this was on the ground. Yours is super full.
Yeah.
With the long branches.
Yeah, really long, right? See, that's my problem. I always put this like in the middle or try to.
All right, so now that we've got our spillers in, now we want to make sure our soil level around our entire planter is at a good height. We don't want to fill to the top of our container because we want enough breathing room for our water to flow in, right? Now, being close to the top is okay because, like we said, there's a lot of air content, and as we water the first time, it is going to settle. But we want to make sure that we've got enough to cover the root balls all the way around at an engaging amount. I'm digging this. I would probably scoop a little bit more in your center here, hon. See how that's going to be a little bit low from the base? When you go to water your first time, this is going to settle probably another 1/4 to 1/2 inch. So I would probably just put one more scoop in there and then just kind of use your fingers to like level it in that space, right? That way when you water, you don't lose all the soil and expose your roots. Yeah, it looks great though.
So is this a plant that's full sun, shade?
Full sun. Yep, I was going to chat about that and kind of what to do with them once they start growing out of the containers too.
Honey, hey, what is going on with her? Oh. Just saying, Mason needs some assistance.
Awesome. Cool. Cool. All right. So, for anybody that used the purslane, the more kind of succulent looking spiller, I did want to give you a heads up. It is often easy to lose a branch, right? Because they are delicate and they are sensitive little babies. But if you pull off the last set of leaves, you'll expose a little bit of a stem, and you can easily put this guy in a little bit of water and it will root easily. So then you'll get a whole new plant out of it. Another great way is when you're pruning your planters. Actually, the sweet potato vine, you can do this as well. So both the spillers that we use today, so the sweet potato vine as well as the purslane, as you are trimming, as these guys fill out and they're spilling the sides, as you prune off branches for shape and just to clean it up a little bit, any small clippings like this, you can easily root in things like water, The clay pebbles that we've got in the apothecary as well work really well. It adds some stability. We've got some really cute little propagation vases for things like this to have on like a desk at work or at home. But they will root easily, and then you've got a whole new plant, right? That is a type of propagation, water propagation, right, that you can do that kind of keep the process moving for the plant. We've had a couple of great questions on the care and placement, so I want to chat a little bit about that. So our potted arrangements that we've made today are going to be designed to be in as much sun as possible. Full sun in our area is going to be anywhere from about 4 to 6 hours of sun, depending on the intensity and the time of the day. So if it's afternoon sun, you can get about 4 hours of sun and consider it almost full sun for some plants. Our plants that we use today really just need about 4 or 5 hours, and they will be perfect. That's what will help them keep blooming. Again, fertilizing also helps that, like we've talked about, right? We want to look for that high middle number for the food, right? But keeping them watered is going to be another consideration. The more sun they're going to get, the more frequent you're going to water, right? So on watering on something like this, for this first week, if the weather stays like this all week like it's supposed to, you are likely only going to need to water it maybe once when you get home today. And the rest of is going to come from rain and the fact that it's overcast and a little bit cooler than it's been, right? Now, when we get back to what summer should be, right? Because it's coming, whether we want it or not, you are likely going to be watering anywhere from about 2 to even possibly 3 times a week with the more sun that these get. We have put a lot of plants into a smaller container. I will say this is not our normal recommendation of pot size. But what we made today is going to be something that will easily last all summer long, okay? So we've created a container for us that's going to last about 3 to 4 months without outgrowing its space. But the plants will continue to live. So there is an opportunity of breaking this planter apart and going back through the exact same process we just did today, right? So as we take them out, we're going to soften and finesse those roots to get them into their new containers. You could do the exact same arrangement in a larger pot if you wanted to. We used a 10-inch terracotta today. When you go to up-pot them, I would suggest something closer to a 14-inch if you want to use the exact same plants, okay? If you do separate them out, you could easily reuse one of the large plants to fill out your 10-inch or move into like a 12-inch and introduce some new stuff, right? So the geranium is easily going to last all the way through fall, typically dies out or doesn't look as pretty in a hot, hot summer or in a colder winter, okay? We are supposed to get a mild summer. Knock on wood on that one. I don't know if anybody believes that, but I'm here for it. But if we do get a mild summer, they're going to look great all summer long. But you do want to keep up your feeding, okay? Feeding is going to be really important for your annual colors. This is where they're going to get all breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? This is where they're going to get all what they need in order to keep producing those blooms. So fertilizers are going to be really important. You'll find all of those goodies in the apothecary, which is our small building next to the register tent there. There is a wide range of variety in the way of brands and styles, but all of them that we do carry are good. We won't carry anything that's not good. Other than that, when we go to split them out, your geranium, like I mentioned, will last all summer. Your sweet potato vine or the purslanes will look great all summer long. That's really when they're going to thrive the most, okay? Your spillers in this example are probably going to outgrow the pot the fastest, to be honest, right? We also used as our thriller today the Ruby Crystal and the Red Rooster Carax. The Ruby Crystal is going to be a little bit larger full grown than the Red Rooster Carax. Both of them are perennials in our area and can be put into the landscape. So as they continue to grow, you could separate out your pot and put them into the yard and into the landscape if you'd like. The other two are typically very annual plants in our area, but we were having a little discussion before class. My mom, for some reason, gets her sweet potato vine to live year after year after year, and mine dies the minute I don't look at it the right way. So, depends on what type of gardener you are, I guess. But the sweet potato vine can perennialize in that way. Again, depends on your winter and your summer seasons, of course, but they can pretty well come back and thrive in that way. And then the purslane, typically in our area, does die off in winter time. I do have some people that bring them inside, they've told me, through winter. To be honest, it's a little bit too much work for an annual for me, so she is going to stay outside until she doesn't look good anymore. But that is something that is going to die off in the winter, but that's where I would transition to some other stuff, right? As your annuals, as you transition throughout the year seasonally, you do have a lot more annuals become available to you depending on the seasonality of the season we're in, right? So we will end up with our tables full of cool season annuals, and that's where you could come in and grab something like that for your winter and fall season kind of concept, right? What else did I miss? I think that's pretty much anything. Anybody have any big questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
So how often would you fertilize?
That's a great question. So on your initial fertilizer, when you go home, I would definitely use a granular, something that's going to be slower release for our plants. This is going to be something I wouldn't do for another 2 to 3 months, okay? On my liquids, I'm going to use that about twice a month for all of my blooming plants. Remember, as this is a lot faster for the plant to drink and to eat, basically, right? But it also being a liquid is going to leave the soil a lot faster as well, right? So I'm using something like this about every 2 weeks on my blooming plants. And that's what's going to keep them in bloom all season long. Great question. No, you can use liquid in ground as well. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. You got it. You got it across the board. I would go something, if we're doing them in ground, I would go something like Microlife, a little bit better price point for the gallon size that you get out of it, right? But yeah, that's something that you would use on the same schedule about every 2 to 3 weeks in ground plants as well. Yep. Another thing to know is, I guess, when your perennials are blooming, that's when you know they need that high bloom fertilizer, right? So your landscape plants in that way for sure. Yep. Any other big questions, guys? All good? You guys were great. It was super easy. I hope everybody really enjoyed it today. I want to say special shout out to all of the moms and people we call moms in the room. So big round of applause for all of our moms for being moms, doing all the mom things, right?
Like putting up with you.
And putting up with us, yes, yes, yes. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
But if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to come and see me. Feel free to meander the floor. All of the salespeople will be able to help you guys with all the products and stuff that we covered today as well. And on your way out, make sure to see me for your coupon for today as well, too. Awesome. Question? What you got, buddy?
What is a flowers and they grow bunch of flowers every single day it's raining?
They love the rain, don't they? It's the best kind of water to get, best kind of shower. Well, thank you guys again very much, and thank you, moms, for being so mom-ish.
Mom-ish.
Mom-ish.